So all it is with Houston is we have to pay players a certain amount. So we will take anyone who comes here. We'll give Jeff Green 1 year, $6 million. We'll give Dillon Brooks $80 million. Van Vliet shot under 40% last year, right?
He's, I believe, the first player in NBA history to make more dollars than what his shooting percentage is.
Are you sure? I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, Dillon Brooks shot just under 40% last year. And this goes back to the point that I made earlier, which is why can't they just trade people into space? They have some assets to do so. They can take, like, just give me an expiring deal. Don't be signing Dillon Brooks to that deal.
So you guys ready to play salary cap?
I would love to. I would love to hear an explanation for this.
This is how it goes.
Other than what JJ Redick did, which is he's a good player.
Before we do this, though, give me another time here in free agency where you've been more surprised than Dillon Brooks getting $80 million. I didn't. Go ahead.
Dan, we want to play salary cap.
All right, let's play that. That's fine. Let's play salary
Tyler
cap.
Johnson's the answer.
Alan Crabb,
who someone once said was better than Goran Dragic.
It was a better fit. I apologize and I capitulated. How many times do I have to apologize for my bad heat takes?
All right, so once upon a time, by once upon a time I mean like last year, up to last year, the salary floor, which is 90% of the salary cap, you had to reach it by the last day of the regular season. So if you were a team that was bad, like Houston, and has a ton of cap space, like Houston, you would carry it into the season because you're saying, I'm going to be the official clearinghouse for every deal that needs a 3-team or a 4-team, and someone needs to take this bad deal. And I was like, well, I'll do it if you give me 2 firsts or a first here or 3 firsts there or this or that. And that's how Oklahoma City really got good, was just accepting, and making things happen that way. That was the strategy. Now, the Players Association argued that this was a disingenuous use of getting to the salary floor, because the whole point of salary floor is making sure teams are spending the money, that they're not just holding on to it. But here's the thing. If I'm a team and the 90% of the cap is $120 million, and I don't spend $120 million all year long until like the last week or so where I, pick up a guy off waivers or even at the trade deadline, I acquire someone to get me to the floor. Yes, now my payroll shows as I'm at the 120 mark, but my cash out is actually less because the guy I'm acquiring, he's already made the money he's made up to that point in the season.
But the players, from a union standpoint, they get the same amount. They're getting 32 times 90% of the cap, whichever teams are paying it. So it's not like the union should be upset with the team that is smart enough to use that strategy because players are getting their money.
Is a theory that the union took such exception to this, and keep in mind Chris Paul, who had all that power with the players union, fell victim to, well, I don't want to go to OKC. Al Horford, I don't want to go to OKC. So it's to protect against what potentially might happen to Damian Lillard, which is I bought up all this time and I was super loyal to this franchise. I don't have a no-trade clause for whatever reason, and I'm getting sent late in my career to a nowhere franchise when I've been this legendary player.
Because they're going to turn and flip me somewhere else, but for whatever amount of time I'm there, it doesn't behoove me, right? So what they did now is you have to spend that by day one of the regular season. So there's a risk as a team with a bunch of cap space to get to day one and you haven't spent it, and now the penalty is they take that amount and they divide it. It used to be divided among the players on the team. Now they divide among all the players across the league. So the answer, Dan, is, yeah, like you can say, oh, no, I'll just hold on to it and I'll be a clearinghouse. But what if no clearinghouse is needed, right? What if everything is in a stalemate and now you basically blew through however much, $30, $40 million in cap space? No, they're saying I'd rather spend it, know I spent it on guys that I like. And because Houston is bad, you have to overpay for a Fed VanVleet. You have to overpay for a Jeff Green. And, not to hit Mike, but JJ Redick's right. Like, Dillon Brooks is not a bad player. He's got some bad publicity. He's a little bit of a dumbass.
Yeah.
But, he's not a bad –
Well, he's a bad shooter.
Well, my exception – here's what I was doing. I think Dillon Brooks on the right team – I think he's a superior defender. On the perimeter, you'd be hard-pressed to find many better in that league. I'm not saying that in the right situation he can't be a winning player. I'm saying it's absurd to pay him $80 million. Gabe Vincent went for $33 million.
I didn't think there were going to be competing offers for Dillon Brooks. I thought that
who
the
were they
market went to
negotiating?
$80 million without Houston competing against anybody for
It's
that.
them feel. First of all, the other thing that happens, and this is typically an NFL thing, but has not bled to our sport, where you hear the deal, guys, nothing has been signed. We don't know what these contracts look like. We don't know what kind of incentives are built in there. We don't know what kind of guarantees are built in there. And the reason why we're hearing these numbers is because the people leaking aren't the teams. They're the agents. The agents have a vested interest in hearing the highest number possible, right? So I don't know what Dillon Brooks' deal looks like, but I would just hold off on just judging it before you hear it.
I think the narrative around Dillon Brooks got a little out of control, and he's partly to blame for that because of what he did before the Lakers series. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm also saying what J.J. Redick did was a little absurd. If you're going to spend $80 million, I think there are better players to spend it on in that market if you're going to overspend.
That wanted to go there?
I mean, Dante DiVincenzo isn't going to say no to an $80 million offer from Houston.
I mean, what did he get?
He got 50. He got 50, and Gabe Vincent got 33.
He got 50 to go play with his friends in New York City.
I don't understand what they were doing with and Dante DiVincenzo. That's not that bad of a deal.
No, it's not.
But it is when you compare that Gabe Vincent went for 33.
But my point is, if you're New York, if you're Houston, there is a premium you're paying to get guys here. And the one thing you could say about all three of those guys, regardless of what they're hard workers, they're dirt workers, they're blue-collar guys. Like, these are guys that are coming in. Remember, Houston has a crazy young locker room of guys that don't have any idea how to work or, like, what it means to be in this league and what kind of work it takes. Dillon Brooks might be a dumbass, but he's not lazy. He doesn't cut corners. Like, he puts in the work. Now, whether he's a good basketball player, like, in terms of decision-making is a different story, but at least you want to have those guys in that locker room.
But if I wanted to ask you a top 5 list right now of the 5 worst contracts in the NBA, Dillon Brooks is not on that list.
No.
He's not even close to that list. We're talking about this as though Houston wasted $80 million, but it really is 20 because you do it per year. It's 20 per year. And when you look around at the number of players making more than 20, Dillon Brooks made a mistake. He screwed with the wrong bear. No doubt about that. But as a player, the way the NBA is, $20 million, not unreasonable.
David, do you know what the average salary in the NBA is now?
I would assume 6.9.
It's like 12 and change. Like,
That's
20
outrageous.
is not bad.
By the end of this contract, there is a good chance, though, that he's in the discussion for worst contract in the league.
Let me go through some money numbers with you guys and just change of sports numbers. So which one of these is funnier to you, Amin? Because the sport has obviously changed, so Evan Fournier has twice as many three-pointers as Larry Bird ever did. But also, Max Strus is making as much as Larry Bird and Magic Johnson made in their careers combined. And when you talk, because I think David will have some interesting thoughts on this here, this is from NFL Rookie Watch on Twitter. When you look at the money differences in the sport, the idea that Tyreek Hill, the best wide receiver in the sport, has got a 4-year contract, $120 million, 72 guaranteed. Christian McCaffrey, 4 years, $64 million, 30 guaranteed. Desmond Bain, 5 years, $207 million, $207 million guaranteed. That's crazy, given what the lifespans are in the sport and the injuries. That's an insane difference. That Desmond Bain's guaranteed money would be 3 times as high as Tyreek Hill's, and Jesus,
2 things,
7 times as high as Christian McCaffrey.
This is real easy. There's 2 things. One, Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey are way more likely to have a devastating injury than Desmond Bain is. 2, hard cap versus not a hard cap.
3, strength of union. Doesn't get talked about enough. The strength of the NBA Players Association, the Major League Baseball Players Union, it makes the NFL Players Union look as though it does not exist, the Players Association in the NFL.
I thought Dominique Foxworth would have you believe that used to be true, but isn't quite as true as it used to be.
Maybe there's incremental improvement, but Bain, $200 million.
I know, but his point, I think his point is the more relevant point, which is on any given play, it's vastly more likely that you lose Tyreek Hill or Christian McCaffrey for the entirety of that contract. It's why the contracts have less guaranteed money in football.
What about baseball, where pitchers are getting injured all the time and signing long-term deals? You say that the Brooks contract is bad at the end of the deal. What about all the 10-year contracts, the Pujols contract, or the current contracts for guys who are going into their 40s?
I have till the end of the segment to walk a take back, and I think with the salary cap going up year over year, probably Brooks is going to be okay at $20 million by the end of it.
We're getting a new TV deal in a couple of years, man. Like it's gonna be a middle class deal in the NBA.
I understand defending your union, and I understand the concept, but at the end of the day, it's defined by one thing. It's what the benefits are for the retired group of players and what the guaranteed money is for the current group of players.
Are any of you surprised in any way that Van Vliet is getting a bigger contract than Kyrie Irving?
No.
That's crazy.
Rather have Van Vliet.
That's
than
just
Irving.
crazy.
Yeah.
If I said that to you 3 years ago, that's
3 years ago, Kyrie was already on this path.
but come on, man.
3 years ago was the start of the pandemic.
Did Kyrie Irving have many options? Because I was surprised to see him go back to Dallas because it didn't seem to be working in Dallas. And now you're headed toward, after the transaction talk on Lillard, we're headed straight toward Embiid and Luka being next on who's Miami going to get.
Oh, Embiid's already playing
Photoshop
ball.
season.
The Watcher. The Watcher.
The Watcher.
Yeah.
Oh man, we haven't talked about that enough.
Guys are insatiable. You want every player on the Heat.
Briefly, though.
They
Yeah, that's
turned
right.
it to New York. They turned it to Knicks fans.
Briefly, though, because I know we're going to lose you here for a little bit, 50 seconds on Kyrie and who the Mavericks were negotiating against. They even gave him a player option in that final year, and Kyrie seemed to be out of public moves. In fact, he was threatening to go to Phoenix through leagues for the veteran minimum.
I think, again, I would be very interested in seeing what his contract looks like before I judge it, because I'd be surprised if there isn't some language in there that says, hey, you don't have to be an all-star, but you have to play, either minutes or games.
These contracts, I want to get into the way this stuff is being reported by the reporters. What are you laughing about, David?
It's in the contract that he has to play.
That's right.
That's really
That's
something.
right. That's
Boy,
right. I mean,
you got to play.
That's where we are with Kyrie Irving.
Strong union.